See Naomi Watts attempt to save, or perhaps merely just fucking salvage the Americanized remake of Goodnight, Mommy, an Amazon original from director Matt Sobel, who did Take Me to the River. This was written by Kyle Warren, who has a few credits according to his IMDb, including the Lethal Weapon TV series. A series so fucking renowned, I fucking forgot it fucking existed until I fucking checked his fucking IMDb page fucking. Anyway, nevertheless, this does have Naomi Watts in another Americanized remake of a foreign movie, because about 20 years ago, she was in this, and I loved The Ring. I loved her in it. I thought she was hot in it. I still think she's hot now. She's fucking gorgeous, a great goddamn actress. I would, you would too, but she was great in this, and I'm like, okay. I don't have any particular affection towards the original Goodnight, Mommy. I did just review it recently, but I was like, alright. It understood subtlety, and even though the storyline was obvious, maybe it'll do some good things, even though they're going to have to go shot for shot in some instances, because they could try to make the story more goddamn bonkers, but they'll have to have it just about as grounded to really honor the original. And speaking of the original, it was directed by the people who did this, The Lodge, which is fucking terrific. I praised this in the Goodnight Mommy review that I did just recently, and they also helped produce this. Watch The Lodge, by the way. Fuck, watch the trailer for The Lodge. It's certainly better than this. Am I tipping my hand too soon to reveal the fact that besides Naomi Watts, this movie was fucking stupid? Really, really fucking stupid. This is very phoned in. Amazon has kind of been phoning it in with a lot of the originals. And I'm not even saying that it's the director's fault or the writer's fault, but it's like, look, they just basically took the bare bones of the material from the original and they said, okay, we're going to add a few different things. We're going to add some spoopy, atmospheric stuff to it. And we got Naomi Watts. That's really all we need. That had to have been the pitch for the fucking movie because, and no offense against the kids who do have the same names, Elias and Lucas, played by the Cravetti twins, Cameron and Nicholas. And every time I hear the word Nicholas, I think of Forrest Whitaker in Last King of Scotland. Oh boy, I will never look at a hook the same way again. Nor will I look at Hook the same way again. If you are a wrestling fan, you are dying laughing in the comments. So, if you have seen the original, congratulations, you saw the better one. If you haven't seen the original, let me explain the plot as quickly as I can. A mother gets facial reconstructive surgery. Her boys go to see her in an isolated house, and they start to suspect because of behavioral changes and the way she's acting a little more angry, abusive, and everything that maybe she's not their mother. Not to be confused with the movie You Are Not My Mother, which was actually a pretty damn good indie horror that came out earlier this year that I also reviewed. They then have to go through the channels to try and figure out this stuff. They have no contact with their dad, but since this is Americanized and they have better cell phone access, well, maybe they can use that. Well, no, the cell phone thing kind of goes tits up. Their mother's a little bit angry and a little bit upset and everything, and they do a few different things, but it's the same fucking plot. Like, literally the same fucking plot. Now, maybe I made a mistake watching the original before this, but I'd already seen the original. I just rewatched it as a refresher, and then decided to watch this, and again, besides Naomi Watts, this movie is fucking terrible. And even while she's doing her best, the kids aren't all that good. I mean, they're not terrible. The other characters and the other tweaks that they have, they aren't necessarily offensive, but they aren't great. Instead of a priest helping them, there's cops helping them. And other than that, it's just an isolated, Americanized version of a film that while the Austrian original was good for what it was, I don't necessarily think it's the great, cult classic horror that people said it was. That one at least dealt with stuff in a more visceral way. This almost felt tame and sanitized and silly, and also it ended up, getting to the same goddamn point, just in almost in the same goddamn way. It stretched out other scenes. It added a little bit more of a backstory and then rushed other stuff because this is about 8 minutes shorter than the original, which had its own issues where it was stretched out. But that's pretty much it. If you haven't seen the original, that's the plot, basically. If you have seen the original, again, congratulations, you saw the better one. I'm going to get into spoilers here pretty goddamn soon, even though if you have seen the original, you already know what the fucking plot is. But let's just get to it. So it is on Amazon. If you're an Amazon Prime member, then you will absolutely be able to gain access to it. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Amazon actually has done a few decent ones. They did Emergency, that's pretty good, and American Carnage. Those are two pretty good originals. This, however, just felt like an unnecessary remake where they just wanted to let Naomi Watts flex her acting chops. And unfortunately, she was hamstrung by the fact that, well, the script wasn't all that good, and the director, while he tried and did try atmospheric stuff, didn't end up succeeding besides making just a remake that was just here. This wasn't the Psycho 1998 remake, but it still really was unnecessary and not very good. So, spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. Okay, so here we go with the spoilers. So the whole thing about the twin boys, you know about that. One twin boy is still alive, and there was an accident that led to the death of the other one. Elias is alive, Lucas isn't. But we see the twin boys acting. And we hear this one thing where Naomi Watts is saying, I can't keep pretending or whatever. It's like, I've got to get rid of him. How long do I have to keep pretending that this is going on, that this is normal? And they think, oh, it's because of the facial reconstructive stuff. No, it's because of the twin aspect. That's what it is. And sure, the whole twin aspect, that's fine. I mean, that twin aspect worked a whole lot better, but also that's because Kubrick was a nutcase. Just ask Shelley fucking Duvall. But that at least worked. And in the original, it sort of did, even though, to me, it stumbled at the conclusion. By the time they get to where they trap their mother and they tie her to the bed, the movie's off the goddamn rails. There's a point where they go to this abandoned house next, that's like, or seemingly abandoned. It's got furniture, and maybe they're planning to sell the thing. The alarm gets set off by the fact that the kids were there and the cops show up. And also, Elias has this nightmare of his mother. He has a couple nightmares. One of his mother peeling skin back, and she's this weird creature covered in black. And then this creature crawls through the window and bashes through and tries to attack him and stuff like that. Because they think that she's not their mother. Well, actually, she is. She is, and they deal with that subtlety, as well as a brick to the fucking skull. And then when the cops show up, the cops, instead of the Red Cross, the cops are like, oh, well, we'll just wait around. Well, no, we have a tractor trailer turned over. The tractor trailer and the silver spoon, little boy blew, and the cow jumped over the moon. So the cops end up leaving, but the one cop doesn't necessarily suspect that everything's on the up and up. And then what ends up happening is there was this part in this barn that nobody was supposed to go into, but of course the kids go into the barn, aka Elias says or sees this stuff, this like blood on this post, and he doesn't understand what the fuck happened. It turned out to be an old house that they were at, and what happens, they were playing, him and Lucas were playing, and Lucas got his head bashed there. It was an accident, and mother was upset. And then what ends up happening is Elias doesn't want to come to grips with this, even after he unties his mother. And no, Lucas made me do it, but you have to stop pretending. Lucas isn't here. It wasn't your fault. And then he shoves her off the goddamn loft because he doesn't want to face the fact that he's nuts. And then the barn burns down. And it turns out everybody's dead. The thing is about this movie is, besides Naomi Watts, there really isn't anything to it. And again, it just feels like an unnecessary remake. And it gets an F. I'm sorry, it wasn't very fucking good. Atmospheric, as far as cinematography, actually there was some pretty good cinematography there. And again, Naomi Watts, but you can't just lock your movie in on those two things. It wasn't very good. It wasn't scary. It wasn't, the reveals weren't shocking. Even if you haven't seen the original, I don't see how any of the reveals would be particularly shocking with this. That being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Yeah, I gave it an F, by the way, in case I didn't say that. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.